Well, the war in Israel continues. We're going to get an update from Irina Merkelova. She is on the ground, knows exactly what's going on there in Israel. Before we do that, I just want to remind you to get over to ourwatch.com, click subscribe. We'd love to have you as one of our watchmen. That way you can get this kind of information right straight to you. Also, if you would like this video, share it out with your friends, your family, your neighbors. It's so important that people get true information into their lives. All that being said, the war in Israel is definitely on all of our hearts and our minds. If we are Bible-believing Christians that love the Lord, we're going to love Israel. And so all this that's going on in Israel is important to us, and it's important to get true information. Today, to bring that true information to us, we have Irina Merkelova. Irina, thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, been getting a lot of updates from you. We really, truly appreciate it. You've been in Gaza, and you have firsthand experience of what it's like there. Can you share some of that experience with us?
It was one of those once-in-a-lifetime experiences that I'll probably never forget. It was quite apocalyptic, almost. We were doing really important work. We were stationed in a Hamas leader's villa that was half destroyed. And we had to go home to home looking for evidence of Hamas activity and looking through regular civilians' homes. And oddly enough, in those civilian homes, we would find a lot of um, items pertaining to Hamas activity. So we would have to confiscate those things. We'd have to give them over to intelligence. So we did that for quite a long time.
There's a lot of talk here in America. What I'm seeing is predominantly amongst some of the younger people in our nation, especially college students, where they believe that what you're doing there in Gaza is wrong, and that somehow you're invading people's privacy and treating people wrongly. Can you speak to that?
That's silly. The homes that we go through have been abandoned, and the buildings are mainly destroyed. And what we're looking for tunnels with, still active terrorists in them, which we have found as well. And they're everywhere. I mean, we would be sitting, it would be nighttime, out of nowhere, there'd be some guy that pops out of a tunnel, starts shooting at you, pops back in. We have no idea where the tunnel is. So, and that's dangerous. So that was one aspect of our work. And it's not invading people's privacies if those people are engaging in terrorist activities that is harmful for other people. And I feel like most Americans would probably understand that. And on top of that, again, the homes are already abandoned. The buildings are partially destroyed. We're going through what we can find so that we can identify more active terrorists.
You say most Americans can understand that. I would hope they would. But there's a lot of misunderstanding about what it's like living in Israel. I've taken a lot of people to Israel. I've been there multiple times. I love the nation. It's a beautiful place to go. Um, the politics are different in Israel. You look at here in America, people on the left and the right, and it's different for Israel if you're on the left and the right. Here in America, if you're on the left, you typically want an open border. You're on the right, you want a strong border. But what we find in Israel is whether you're on the left or the right, you want a strong border. You want a strong military, because to live in Israel is a little bit different, isn't it?
It's definitely different. You know, when I was living there during my initial military, every morning I would get on a bus. There was a thought that crosses your mind where you think, this might be my last bus ride, because there was so much activity, terrorist activity, where the terrorist would come in, blow up a bus, and it happened all the time. So you never felt comfortable in public transportation. You never felt comfortable walking into a mall. You in the schools, the high schools or other schools, you have, the school is completely gated. It's fenced off, it's gated. have security with guns at the back end of the school. And that's how you live. And it's totally normal for them because you get used to it. But you constantly have to worry about, is this going to be my last bus ride?
Yeah, so to I would say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but to the vast majority of Israelis, a strong border presence, a strong border walls. These things are very important to the Israeli people, aren't they?
They're very important. And I think that a lot of people have relaxed a little bit because they feel, oh, Israel is so good at what they do. They're great at intelligence, they're great at border security, which they are, but you can't ever get too comfortable because somebody's always going to try to do something, as we saw on October 7th. And now, I think, after what happened in Israel, we don't have a Second Amendment. So people don't have the right to bear arms. And so they don't have a right to protect themselves. So they heavily rely on police and border patrol and military to protect them. And as we saw, that's not enough. And so currently the number of applications in Israel that have been submitted by people for handguns skyrocketed. I wouldn't even be able to tell you the exact numbers, they're so high. Every single person is trying to get a license to carry a handgun, and I hope that transfers over to other things as well, because in a country like that, you should have the right to protect yourself at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Recently, I was happy to have Jeremy Oliver, the producer of Our Watch, take a trip over there to Israel. He was able to meet with you. Tell us about that. How was it having somebody visit you there?
It was very nice to see him again, and I brought him to Nativ Asawa, which is a settlement on the northern part of the Gaza border. It was one of the settlements that was attacked on October 7th. And I set up a small interview where one of the guys that lives there, who's currently in like the settlement security, he walked around, showed us all of the areas that were impacted on October 7th, and told us all the stories, and then invited us over to his home, or one of the settlers' homes, for lunch. It was very nice.
You know, we often on Our Watch, we're constantly talking about the need for Christians to support Israel. We see this in Genesis chapter 12, verse 3, where God said he'll bless the people that bless Israel. He's going to curse the people that curse Israel. You've got firsthand of experience of what it means to have people bless Israel. How important is it to the Israeli people to have people around the world blessing them?
Extremely important. Not just blessing, but supporting and putting out good thoughts. Um, the support is what really matters. And for example, you guys have supported my unit in such an amazing way. All of the money that was raised for equipment went to Kevlar vests and everything, which is one of the reasons why we were even allowed to go into Gaza. And my unit kind of made history because it's a co-ed unit with both male and female combat veterans and reserves, and we were one of the first, if not the first, co-ed unit with men and women that was able to go within the reserves into Gaza. We weren't the first women, but we were the first reservists, which was kind of a big deal. And so the money that you guys sent and the money that was raised, it was all a part of that. Without that, we wouldn't have been able to go in.
Well, I'm blessed that you guys were blessed in that way. You went in and you saw some things. I don't want to, I'm not looking to sensationalize anything at all, but you've seen some things that have been horrific. How are you dealing with that?
One day at a time. It's going to be an adjustment, and I have all of my teammates for support, and we're like a big family. We support each other. What's interesting is that I don't think that I would ever, in real life, it's kind of amazing. In real life, I probably would never approach a lot of these people, but because we're all together and we have a common goal, we're like family now.
Yeah, and it's important for a family to have a prayer structure for somebody praying for you. We want to be able to provide that. You know, the Bible tells us that we're supposed to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. We want to make sure that we know how to pray for you and for your unit. What are some of the prayer requests you're hearing from your fellow soldiers?
Just so that the war would end, so that we can all go home. Everybody's really tired. Everybody wants to be home already, and and because we'll go weeks without me, especially, but because I don't live here, but my fellow teammates, they will go weeks and weeks without seeing their children, their families. So I think everybody wants it to end, and I think it's going to be a long road ahead. I don't think that it's by any means over. So
You say a long road ahead. A lot of people are asking how long this is going to last. There was a lot of talk at first. We saw October 7th. A lot of people expected some very quick, very swift, very dramatic response from Israel. We haven't really seen that. We've seen kind of a longer game here. So as this has played out, what do you anticipate? Do you see this being over by February, March? Do you think this is going to drag on for a while?
I mean, everything within the military changes so quickly. We can think one thing today and tomorrow it'll all change. However, I think that this is going to drag into 2024. I think Israel is in it for the long haul because there are a lot of different threats besides Hamas in Gaza. Um, but you never know. I hope not, but you never know. And I think that the reason why Israel has taken its time and it hasn't been as swift is because we're playing the long game. And we're trying to be very, very careful with our operation in Gaza. I mean, we do not want to kill civilians, and we don't want to harm anybody within the civilian population. We don't want to harm anybody. However, when we do airstrikes, they're done with such precision, and we try to be very, very careful instead of just, doing a bunch of airstrikes like a lot of other countries do and just getting it over with. We're trying to do it very precise, almost surgically, removing certain buildings that we know that there are Hamas leaders that are there, or there are tunnels that are located within those buildings, underneath the buildings. So that's one of the reasons why it's taken so long.
Well, yeah, it looks like this is going to be going on for a while. Of course, all of our viewers here at Our Watch, we're going to continue to pray for you and do whatever we can to support you. Arena, we thank you so much for joining us and bringing these updates to us. Any final words for our listeners today?
Just thank you for your support, and thank you for your prayers and your thoughts and your positivity.
All right. Well, Arena Merkelova, thank you for joining us today. And I just want to encourage all of you that are tuned in today, make sure that you share this out with your friends, your family, your neighbors. You're going to hear so much stuff on mainstream media that isn't anywhere close to true. And it's important to hear from somebody who's on the front lines. They know what's going on. So we're grateful for people like Arena and her bringing truth into our lives. We're going to continue to get updates from her, so stay tuned. We'll see you next time right here on Our Watch with Tim Thompson.